Well, it's all about capex and whether the government is changing its focus or not changing its focus. You heard a lot of stock market experts and analysts tell you that maybe it's not taking its foot off the pedal entirely. It's just that, as investors, we have to look at a different set of stocks altogether to play the story. Let's talk about this and more with the management of KEC International. We also have to discuss the third quarter numbers. Revenue growth for the company came in slightly tepid, but the order book growth has been very solid. Margins have also improved, and the stock is showing a little bit of green this morning. We have with us Mr. Vimal Kejriwal, Managing Director and CEO of the company, joining in. Mr. Kejriwal, first, let's start with the good. And congratulations on your order book growth, because you're firing away. I think 22,000 crores already. You guided for an intake of 25,000 crores. If we put together the L1 and the actual order book, you're at 41,000 crores. So those numbers are really lofty. Let me start right there. Whether the buoyancy is so much that you want to revise your guidance, order inflow guidance upwards, and that ties in with what we're hearing around the budget, right? This whole debate around capex, whether there will be a slowdown in the new fiscal.
Good morning, Survi, and thanks for having me. As far as the order book guidance is concerned, I don't think we'll be able to revise it now, because we are at 22, L1 is 4,000. So I don't see more orders converging. We may get a few more L1s, which will probably converge in the next quarter. So this quarter, I think we are happy with the numbers, what we are talking about. And I think obviously with whatever has been talked about in the budget for the capex at 11 lakh crores, and then a state piece, and then some other piece on top of it, the PSUs. Actual numbers being talked about are 19 lakhs, not 11 lakhs. But let's see what happens.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
So you're not looking to revise the guidance upwards. I got that. But from our earlier conversation, I remember, you said that your transmission order book is growing very, very fast. I mean, that business is really doing very well. But you had mentioned that the slowdown in public capex meant that the civil contracts that are happening, the civil work, that's going a little slow. So how should we sort of, read the next couple of months? And again, your interpretation of whether the business that you're in, whether you will still be the beneficiary of more public capex.
So, Survi, you are absolutely right. If you look at our order intake of 22,000 crore, 70% of that is in the transmission piece. And even in the L1 of 4,000, I think virtually everything is transmission. So clearly what is going to happen is that our transmission revenue, which were almost at around 50-51 in Q3, I think we're around 59%. 9 months is around 57. So we clearly see that the transmission piece will keep on going up, the way the tenders are coming and the way the announcements are happening. As far as civil is concerned, I think clearly we saw a slowdown. In fact, our order book has degrown slightly, I'll say, because we were about 10,000. I think we're now at 9,700 or so. So I think that's the way it's going to continue for some time.
Okay, all right. Hi, Mr. Kejriwal. And it seems, at least for the time being, the street has looked through the operational numbers and they're impressed with the order book. But let's talk about the operational numbers, because for the first 9 months, you have grown by around 9%. You were guiding to grow by close to around 15% for the year. So by the end of this year, what kind of a growth rate will you wind up at? Point number one. Point number two is margins have improved, but they're still short of that 7.5% that you were talking about earlier. So on an average, what will margins look like? Revenue growth for the year, margin outlook, and maybe you could give us the margin outlook for even for FY26. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so if you look at our revenue growth, we definitely wanted to have a higher growth than what we have now. Okay, and I think if you look at what we talked about, there are a couple of reasons why this is happening. One is the significant slowdown in the water projects, which was done deliberately because payments were not happening. Now, hopefully, we have seen an allocation of some 67,000 crores for Jal Jeevan Mission. And if it starts translating quickly into cash flows, then a part of the revenues which we have deferred in the last quarter should come in this quarter. Secondly, I think the labor shortage still continues. We still have a shortage of close to 4,000 people across our civil and T&D business. And thirdly, what we have been talking about, the supply chain, especially on the transformers and conductors, is easing out significantly, but it is still less. So I think those is what contributed to a lower growth than what we had projected. See, as far as the annual is concerned, 15%, I don't know whether honestly we'll be able to do 15, but I don't think we'll be very far off. It may be 14, it may be 15, it may be 13.75. I don't think we have still given up on that number. We have a large Q4 lined up, and there's a huge amount of
So 12 to 14% is doable, Mr. Kejriwal? 12 to 14%, that means
100%. No doubt
Okay, 12 to 14%. And margins?
Margins, I am not sure right now with what with the quality of revenue it will happen, but I don't think it will be very far off. Whether it will be 7.4 or 3 or 0, it will definitely between 7 to 7.5. I don't see that it will go down below. We are already at 7% for this quarter, and with the revenue projections or growth of 12 to 14 for the year, we'll definitely have a very large Q4, which will pull up the entire margin scenario.
Okay, so between 7 and 7.5, I mean, your guidance has been at 7.5 for a while. Mr. Kejriwal, good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us. Prashant here. Just talk about railways as a segment, right? I mean, if you look at what the budget is promising in terms of allocation, it is absolutely flat. So is that that part? And you've told us earlier that the focus was on Vande Bharat. Now they maybe hopefully things will come back and they'll focus on rail infra building. And not just on train sets, but this number that we've seen, what do you make of it and any implications therein?
So, Prashant, if you look at the number of 2,52,000 crores, I think the addressable market for that out of that is, I think, around roughly 1,11,000 crores, which is the new lines and, doubling and the Kavach, etc. So I think we are generally happy with that number because our order intake for this year has hardly been 2,000 crores. So for me, it doesn't matter too much whether it is 1,10,000 or 1,30,000. We have honestly gone slow on the railway, conventional railway side where you need to work on tracks. What we are focusing on is on the Kavach side, on the power supply, and also on the metro side where we are doing a few projects on ballast less. So I don't think the railway is right now,
Yeah. Okay. So there's room for you to grow even within that 1 lakh, 11,000 crore number that you said, right? The addressable market.
Absolutely.
On Kavach, are we? I think late last year you got there were 7-8 tenders which were issued. Has anything? What's it looking like this year?
So last year, I think last quarter we announced some orders of around 650 or some crores on Kavach. There are a few tenders which have already come out and which should be decided any day. And if you heard about the railway minister said in 3 years he wants everything to have all their locos and all the things to have Kavach. So we do expect that there will be more orders coming out. I think the orders for Kavach are couched under the CLW order, the allocation, etc. It's not coming out directly, but we do expect it will come out.
Mr. Kejriwal, I'm curious. You started by telling us that there's the top line impact has happened because you've consciously chosen to go slow on water project because of some payment issues. Can you expand on this? I don't know. I mean, are these government projects or what? Because otherwise we keep getting very big headlines. Even in this budget, this Jal Jeevan mission, etc. There's a big increase in allocation. So what is the issue in water and, what potential do you see here?
So, Surabhi, we are doing only Jal Jeevan mission projects. Okay. And they are government projects. So if you look at the numbers, if I'm not wrong, last year also they had an allocation of around 67,000 crores. But I think what happened was, for whatever reason, spend was only 26,000 crores. So now they have restored it back to 67, which is the last year's budget. So if they actually spend that 67, then I think all will get money. It's not me alone. All the competitors, everyone has the same scenario.
So, but this is interesting, sir, and this is I'm glad you're bringing this up. So you're saying there's a delay in receivables, government receivables, in these Jal Jeevan orders.
So Jal Jeevan, what is happening is the Jal Jeevan is a mix of central government and state government funding. It's a question of who puts the bill first. Okay, the state sometimes waits for the center waits for the state. I don't know, but I think let me put it this way: in January itself, we got almost 150 crores of payment on Jal Jeevan. Okay, so I think somewhere we are seeing some opening happening, and I'm hopeful that with the allocation in this budget and the FM actually talking about Jal Jeevan mission, saying that we want water in all the houses like power. If that actually happens, I think this business can really grow.
All right, Mr. Kejriwal, just one quick query. By the end of the year, you're saying 12 to 14%, 100% you're going to do that. I'm taking a median, around 13% growth. So for you to do 13% growth for the year, your quarter 4 will have to be blockbuster. Back of an envelope calculation suggests that quarter 4 of this year in comparison to quarter 4 of last year should deliver a growth of around 22%, which will be around 7,500 crores. Doable?
Absolutely. That's the number we have in mind.
Got it. All right. So quarter 4 will be blockbuster. We'll brace ourselves for the 22%. That was just the back of an envelope calculation that I did. Final question from my end. The cable subsidiary, any plans of listing it? That's the buzz.
I think it's too early for that. The idea of transferring to a subsidiary was that we thought we'll have much more focused growth as a product company rather than a part of a EPC. So, and we are spending around 200 crores right now on the capex. So I think whatever we want to do will probably be at least 1 year down the line or maybe 1.5 years down the line. Not today, no.
Okay, and just leave us with the mix, the revenue mix. Like you said, transmission is firing on all cylinders, and that's 57% of your business. What is water at right now with this Jal Jeevan? And how much, what is the contribution of railways? We're just trying to understand the mix and what you're projecting. Just very quickly.
So railway for this year would be around 10% of our revenue. Water, I don't have the exact figure, but it would be around 6-7%, around 1,200 crores or so will be our revenue from water.
Okay. Got that, and I think that's a pretty... By the way, I just wanted to ask one thing on Kavach, and I think you've given us this number, I forget. What's the total over 3 years, if everything has to be... Kavach has to be installed, as the minister has pointed out. What's the opportunity size, and how many players are there now eligible to participate in these tenders?
So as far as I know, there were 3 approved players. Then there are 2 or 3 more who are in the pipeline, who has, I think, got some in-principle approval. Some of them, I think, have got trial orders also. So the expectation is that in the next quarter, maybe by this quarter, they will also get, actually they'll get formal approval once they install in one of the projects, once they complete the project. So I think in the next 2 or 3 months, you'll have probably another 2 or 3 more players from the equipment side. EPC side, there are not many. So we are one of the very few players who actually work with them on the EPC front.
Okay, all right. So 5-6 players in total over the next couple of months, right? Including what you have now. Mr. Kejriwal, it's always a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much for patiently answering all our questions, and good luck to you and your team. Thank you.